Many thanks for staying tuned to ADBN Television, watching live from Abuja studio, the Market Report. I am Adefola Alamleko. Dr. Aliyu Ilias, economist, is joining me right now to help us understand and have a sense of belonging when it comes to economic consequences of state of emergency. Doctor, a very good day to you, sir.
All right. Thank you for having me.
All right, Doc, let's get the ball rolling. First question. What is your reaction to state of emergency declared by President Tinubu on Rivers?
Right. I think it's much more nostalgia. As it has benefit, it also have other side of it. But as an economist, I would like to agree that it has a benefit because it's going to restore our sanity. And it's going to help our economy going forward. As you know that most of our budgets are planned on expected income, and that would have been the source of the income, so it must not be compromised at any point in time, and that's why some of us see it as a needed effort to embark upon.
I really love your submission. At least the intro part of it will draw my attention to the next question I'm going to ask right now. When you talk about our budget is tied to it, our revenue is tied to it. As I speak right now, the federal government is expecting not less than 19 trillion naira revenue from crude oil. So it means that the government cannot take a chance with what is happening in terms of blowing up pipeline or sabotage of any means or oil theft of any means. So the question is that, is the government so concerned about the economic aspect of it based on the issues that the political solution would have been the best for these particular issues that we have right now in our hands in Rivers State?
Now, this thing about what is called political economy, that's the interplay between the economy and the politics itself. So the fact remains that in the long run, government will be concerned about the economy because the economy is what actually bring the money. You will recall that before Tinubu took over the government, we were doing 900,000 barrels per day. And by the time Tinubu came in, he ramped up a lot of efforts of stopping the oil theft in terms of vandalization and other criminal acts that is actually stopping us to move to where we are supposed to get to. And he has ramped it up beyond 1,500, 1.5 million barrels per day. So it is expected that he has to react swiftly to that action. I think it's based on economic reasons, I will agree, but political reasons, political juggernauts and other pundits have actually seen reason to say no. It was not the right thing. There are other political solution. But for me, as an economist, I think it's important to prevent our source of revenue. You recall that it is our mainstay of the economy. Everything that happens to the Nigeria economy.
Exactly. You are very correct in that regard. Now, talking about the political aspect of it as someone who is politically economy inclined, the president relied on section 305 of the constitution to bring out the declaration, and he said something very, very critical that I also, as an economist, I just have to fall in line. He said, to protect the critical national economic asset, this has to come in. But for the politicians, they are looking at the aspect of the suspension of the governor and the rest of them. So when we put this together, which one should we consider first? Is it the economy or the political rigmarole to ensure that there is fair play, the power is not taken from anybody and the rest of them? What's your own review about that as a political economist?
Right. Well, if you look at President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, since he assumed the office, he has been finding different means of getting more revenue. Because you recall that people try to reduce the tax so as you can get more revenue. We try to look at custom area to ramp up revenue. You look at different area and he has make sure that he gets more revenue. And I can tell you, one of the bragging right of this president is about his ability to actually get much more revenue. So for me, I think the president is concerned about revenue, and myself and you, in the long run, will be concerned if government don't get money to pay salary. If government does not get money to actually do a lot of economic activities that are going to suffer. If there's, and you remember that if you look at the amount we are getting on that angle, if it persists for a month, there will be a breakdown of our plans. So I think President Bola Ahmed Tinubu actually is concerned with revenue and is considering revenue over our political reason. However, if he is in opposition, we don't know what he will think. But let's assume that as the president of the country now, his concern is about how government can get much revenue.
And in that regard, I was saying, you wear the shoe, who wear a shoe that is pinching, know where that pain is coming from, than person that is outside that is not wearing that shoe. So now, Doc, this is not the first time we'll be having state of emergency in Nigeria. In 1962, we have the Operation Wet Tear. You get it? One of my colleagues just remind me of that Operation Wet Tear of 1962. Then in 2004, we have similar issues. In 2006, we had similar state of emergency. In 2011, 2013, we also had state of emergency. This is not the first time. But a lot of Nigerians are here to understand what state of emergency is all about. Doc, can you help us break it down to Nigerians to understand what state of emergency is all about?
Right. You have mentioned it in different manner. So let's look at the cause and effects. Let's look at the causal part of it. You recall that the one that happens during the Dari 2004, I think it was basically because there's an clash, there's a serious clash, and there's a reprisal attack. So the president, Olusegun Obasanjo at that time, his wisdom, think, let's not give room for that such a reprisal attack, and he embarked on it. I think the one that happened in Ekiti is much more political, and this one is much more political. But our concern is that this is the first time it's coming to the south. The north have had their own fair share. The southwest in 1962 have had their own fair share. But it's coming to the south for the first. And south is critical to Nigeria economy. And I think that's what brings about much more concern, because we just imagine what's the correlation between political difference and economic sabotage. It's a two different things that until Nigerians get to go beyond this, that we won't have a political issue and will now resolve on holding Nigeria to ransom with our critical. As I remember, the economic may be at the pipeline and the oil may be in the south, but it belongs to Nigeria, and Nigeria have the total control of it. So I think that's the problem. But for me, when you now say state of emergency, it's a situation whereby the political head, in this case, the governor, the state assembly are suspended, and a military, so to say, is being a military, where this person is a retired person, or he has element of military, another person can, because let me not use military because it can be civilian. Federal government only need to declare that person should be supported with armies and what I do. So let me just look at it from perspective of a civilian taking over the affairs of the thing. But the thing is, looking at it economically, will the head of all the sole administrator in this point in time be able to drive the economy like the elected governor? That is the question that is begging for answer.
Now talking about the sole administrator, doing everything to ensure that the economic work. I think one of the things that is being read out, talking about the cut-out job of the sole administrator is to go and maintain peace and bring about unity in the state. Now, looking at that angle and balancing this with the economic implication, do you think that in Rivers State now, all investors, all businesses will be working as effective as if it were under an elected governor as it was before?
Right. Well, being effective is relative in language when you say effective. So what I would say is that
we are having a connection problem with Doctor, but he will soon be back as he tries to explain to us the relativity of. Okay, go ahead, sir.
The only challenge you will have is that a political person who is disposed to a lot of things, you understand the workings of the state, but a sole administrator is coming to start learning about how to govern the state, and that's the apology now. And governor have had a budget is being planned for a particular project. A sole administrator can bear it and go to something of priority, and a sole administrator will also focus on more security, and the economy to an extent will definitely suffer because the flow of things will not go the way it's expected.
Now, talking about the sole administrator once again, the 6-month time frame, as argued by some economists and some financial experts, that the 6 months will not even germinate or generate any much impact when it comes to economy. But I put it out and I said, What about payment of salaries to civil servants? What about payment of money to some contractors? Will that also not be part and parcel of what will make the economy of Rivers State be more better at this point in time within the 6 months of the emergency rule?
Well, as it is now, I'm sure the salary of the civil servant will pay as and when due. But the only problem is that there's a political appointee. As you know, all the commissioners have been suspended, right? And all these commissioners have SA, PTA, direct, indirect people that are benefiting. Those have been suspended now. And it will affect the economic lifestyle of those people. They are not small. Remember, the appointees are not small.
Exactly.
I'm telling you, people that are affected cannot be less than 50,000 now or 100,000 directly. So now look at the economic benefit that is supposed to trickle down to have a lot of issues. But for me, the economy will not flow as it's supposed to be. Go and check the index. See that it have gone down drastically.
Very interesting from you, Doc. But there are other arguments that the sole administrator is coming. He also will also make some appointments. Do you agree that we make appointments? But there is another argument that says that his appointment may not be that luxury as someone who is elected by the people. So there could be a limit to his appointment in that regard. So do you expect him to make appointment as much as he could fit in and bring about re-engineering of Rivers State economy?
Well, the fact is that remember that the National Assembly will now be his point of approval.
Exactly.
Not the State Assembly. So that's a bureaucratic bottleneck. He also remember that he will appoint people that he actually wants. His cohort, people around him. And it cannot be like, when you say democracy, you can't compare democracy. Democracy consider all segments of the economy, consider all the councillors, the chairman, from there, a lot of administrators. So, but for now, it's going to be hot to an extent.
Very interesting and insightful from you, Doc. Now, let's go back to the larger perspective of this discussion. If you could recall that when President Tinubu took over governance in 2023, we are faced with fiscal policy issues as well as structural challenges issues. And someone have argued that one of the reasons why he took this decision is that he doesn't want to go back to the yo-yo years of yesteryears, that we lost a lot of money, that we have the creek being surrounded by sabotage and the rest of them. So what do you have to say about this particular decision in regards to the fiscal policy and the monetary policy of the current government as it stands? Because there are indications that if the president doesn't take that initial move, then Naira will suffer for it, because Naira is already suffering for it. Revenue also will suffer for it, and other aspects of the economy will suffer for it.
Well, I think it's not correct economically that Naira has started suffering for it. It's just barely 2 days, 3 days, and you know how economic works.
Exactly.
It might actually take some time before it actually works. I think our forest issue is beyond what is happening now. It has a big legacy problem that we have not been able to solve. You recall that even the Naira to dollar, the whole bring around 1,500, 1,600. So there's no major. However, it has a fiscal challenge, because of taxation that will be getting from. Because those companies that are actually getting the crude oil may give an excuse that they have been stopped. There's no supply and a lot of I think the major issue we should concern about now should be the Dangote that said he's not going to sell in Naira again. I think that's more major than looking at this. But this one is, I think President was proactive enough. He came it before it de-escalated, because by now, if it's not under control, it would have been worse. And it's very easy to destroy, but very difficult to actually fix. So for me, I think if the president actually moved as smart as possible, and we want to say thank you to him, even though politically some juggernauts did not agree with him. They even think he has some reasons to have done that. But as an economist, we want the flow of goods and services without interruption.
And again, as economists as you have, Dr. Aliyu, we cannot rule out the issue of the political aspect of it, because they all work hand together. Now, talking about the impact of this decision is where we are right now. When you look at it generally, the impact we have identified to be that it will help us to be able to recoup revenue from the oil. But beyond revenue from the oil, what are the other economic benefits that you can identify that will come forward based on this decision of emergency rule in Rivers State?
Well, if you ask me, I don't think there's the only economic benefit is that our facility will be protected and things will go as planned. Our budgetary expectation from that axis will not be interrupted. I think that is it's just to maintain the status quo and to sustain the efforts, the level of achievements Nigeria as a government have actually achieved in terms of reduction of vandalism and oil theft. I think we are going to sustain it, and to the benefit is going to be a good one going forward. I think that's just the advantage we'll be having on it.
Now, talking about the advantage, are you not considering the local economy in Rivers State, the mama put, the roadside traders, all the shops that have been in hanky-panky in the last 3 weeks, that, okay, if impeachment happened to the governor, this is what will happen, this is what will happen. Don't you think that there's other impetus in this regards based on the emergency that government have brought in to bring sanity and to bring confidence to investors and other local investors within Rivers State also?
Right, I agree with you that investors will have to think, but it's too temporary for them to be worried about. I agree that investors will be thinking about their safety of goods and services, but president has proved them. I've actually proved to them that he's in charge and going to protect their lives and property, and government has actually done that. So there's no negativity in that area. When you talk about mama foods, life is a blocked entity is an open entity to another person. So for those that are in government house before during the Fubara era, they will also have to align, and other people will come and take advantage. So there's economic advantage for some people that are coming, while there's economic disadvantage for people that are going. So the impact may not be felt, and it has not reduced by any means allocation of Cross River. You recall that even now, according to informations, the local government allocation has been will be released, so to say, to this current administrator. That means there is much more flow of money into the economy. So I don't think it will have much negative impact.
Very interesting and insightful. I love your perspective in that regard. So it brings me to this particular question that are talking about compliance with the rule of law, compliance with rules and regulation. Now that Rivers State will be having a sole administrator, what do you expect from the civil servant that will be working with him? You know, we have to show concerted effort towards corruption, towards embezzlement, and towards any malfeasance that may bring, disgrace to the government of the day. Because the sole administrator must be able to work with the civil servant and public servant in that state, so that the accountability of whatever money that is being given to them can be accounted for going forward. So what's your take on that?
Right. I think in the normal Nigerian parlance, soldier go to Japan, then Barak remain. I think civil servants are the most strongest entity we have in Nigeria. Even if you are a minister, if you are a administrator, you come, governor will come, they will go, and civil servants will actually remain. The only thing is that I think there's much watchdog now even than before. Because at this point in time, there's no direct oversight to the sole administrator. The oversight is from the National Assembly, which is quite a distance. But for governor, there's people that are directly working with him. So I think we need much more watchdog now, compare more. But before also, there's no time we don't need watchdog, but now it's direct because the sole administrator is not answerable to any state assembly. It's not answerable to anybody in that state. I think I should use that language.
Exactly.
It is not answerable to anybody in that state. It's only the National Assembly and the Mr. President. So there is much more freedom for him compared to government.
But much is expected from him, particularly accountability and transparency in the judicial use of the revenue of Rivers State. But away from that, let's quickly consider another very interesting aspect of this economic consequence. Is the aspect whereby when money is released for projects, because as it stands today, a lot of people are arguing and had the opportunity to engage with someone and saying the sole administrator may not necessarily go into new contract or even execute contract. Is that what is acceptable in this regard under sole administration?
That's a very instructive question.
You take it there.
The sole administrator may not continue any Fubara project, but he can do his project even within 4 months, 5 months. He can identify a gap, and he will say he wants also a month. Because remember, he also have access to the state purse. The internal generated revenue is under him. So he can decide that, well, we need to build a bridge, and he will start it. Well, we need to build a market. We need to fence this market as soon as possible.
What bridge or Doc, what bridge or what market will you be building in 6 months?
My dear brother, it is possible to build a market in 3 months.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
And he must not compete the project. He does think there is need for it, right? And you need more budget for security than before. You need more budget for it. So you can say that I spent SYZ on so and so security. So you can create a lot of projects, to really get something out. You can create a project, and it's allowed. 6 months is not a small time. I don't think it's a small time. A lot of things can be done in 6 months. So he has the liberty to think and look at what he wants to do for the state.
Exactly. There's no small time. 6 months is quite a huge. That's about 180 days or thereabout. But let's now begin to focus on remedies. We don't want such situation whereby they will be declaring state of emergency as a result of political anarchy and the rest of them. So going forward into the future, how do you expect us to manage the situation of our economy in this regard? Because one of the key issues that led to this state of emergency that many people may not understand, but you and I understand, has to do with the resource control of the state and the rest of them. So how can we manage this situation that will not be going back and forth on state of emergency in Nigeria?
Well, the word democracy gives room for further continuous challenge and continuous solution. I wouldn't say there will not state of emergency going forward, but we should not be having political state of emergency. You recall that what's the name? President Buhari declared in 3 states, which is because of security. The one in Jos is because of security. That state of emergency for security reasons, but political state of emergency is what we should make sure we do away from. And from according to the Supreme Court, I don't think state of emergency, security, political is aligned in our constitution. But the lawyers are relying on the power of president to decide on emergency. That's why they say legally. I don't think it's a normal thing to have state of emergency.
Okay. I
think president is just using the power of how do I call it?
Executive power.
Just now, the House of Rep just ratify and agree with the president proclamation and declare it acceptable. So we're waiting for the Senate. Yes, but the fact is that in as much as the Senate and House of Rep concur, I don't think we can stop it. They are the ones to say yes or no to it. But I could see governors of South say that they are not in support of it. I also see Seriake Dixon is a senator who is opine. I think is an opinion that Senate will not approve it, which we all know that because even yesterday there was supposed to be debate, but discovered that some members are not, and they will not get 73 as it were, and perhaps some northern part or some Muslims in Nigeria, let me know if not, are actually in fasting period and they may not be coming frequently. But let's wait for the outcome as it were.
Exactly. Let's also prefer another solutions to it, because for us is the economic consequence we are looking at, so that to avoid more deficit in our economy, either oil revenue, either crude production, either what to the budget in 2025, but as well as what we and the Rivers State economy generally is what we're after. So going forward again, what do you think should happen in the next 6 months that you expect the Sole Administration to do? If you have to advise him on economic project, economic work that he need to do, what do you expect him to do in this regard?
Well, first of all, my prayer is that I hope they will not extend it beyond 6 months. Throughout the term. That's my number one fear. Number two is that he has to understudy the ongoing economy and key to it so that people will benefit from it, because he cannot he cannot form his own budget. He has to continue the budget.
Exactly.
He cannot also want to start all over everything. He just have to key. So for me, I would advise him to key into the ongoing activities and only see where he can actually make it much more flourish for the good people of Rivers State. Now,
what's your advice to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu in this regard? Because for the president, his main task of, if I will speak his mind, I don't know, I don't have a crystal ball, but his main task is basically, as he pointed out, is about the critical national asset. So, to protect the national asset beyond just under state of emergency, what do you think the government need to be doing in this regard?
Right, I think the government, especially the parliament, need to be much more proactive. So, in as much as it's a political head of Nigeria as well, so you need to look at politics again and try to neutralize himself from partisan politics. He can do it, but not to the detriment of national issues. So I expect that I should have explored other alternatives to look at. Because if people argue that if it is his party, when this will happen, these are the things we need to look at. So I think going forward, it should be much more proactive and think issue before they even get where it's to the breakdown of law that you now have to be too active about. So it should be more proactive to protect economic assets.
Okay, very interesting. Now, before I let you go, Doc, yesterday I read a report from NNPC. The 2 pipeline that was blown, NNPC will be requiring about $3.5 million to repair it. Is that huge? Is that not a loss again to our national asset and national revenue purse?
I think it's a serious economic loss to all of us. And that's why we should have not allowed this to happen. It's an economic loss that we must find. So NNPC kudos to them. They are actually being proactive these days. They actually solve problem as it arises, and that's a good one. Because you cannot stop problem from happening. How do you solve it is the problem. So I think it's a good one, but it's a serious economic loss. Because that money would have been channeled to better the life of Nigerians.
Doc, I can't thank you enough. Thanks for coming at this point in time to help us understand emergency rule that we have right now in Rivers State. Particularly looking at it from the economic implication consequences, which is quite huge. And according to the president, it's about protecting national assets. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you for having me.
And I hope when I call you again, you definitely come on to help us out on some of the issues.
Sure. We are open. Thank you.